So welcome back to Great British Biking Adventures. If you've been following us, you'll know that this is our fourth episode ever. We've done 3 previous episodes on this adventure, which is basically trying to travel around the coastline of Great Britain. You join us on the next stage of this adventure. So the last 3 episodes we did in one go over 3 days. We left Weston-super-mare and we travelled down to day 1. We got as far as Bude, which is somewhere around here. There it is, Bude. Day 2, we pretty much travelled the whole of Cornwall. We were already into Cornwall and Bude, but we travelled all the way through the north coast of Cornwall, around Land's End and the Lizard Point, and got back all the way almost as far as Plymouth, which is on the border with Devon. We got to a place called Fowey, pronounced Foy but spelt Fowey. When we had to make our way back, we just ran out of time, and we came back across Bodmin Moor and Dartmoor and came back home. In this episode, it's a few weeks later, and we're travelling back down to Fowey from Weston-super-mare over Dartmoor. The weather's much nicer for this, and so in this episode you'll see our travels through Dartmoor, and we're going to pick up the adventure from Fowey. Shortly after this we stopped for a break, and the battery really struggled to restart the engine. The bike's an automatic, so we couldn't bump start it. Finally managed to crank enough to fire up. We couldn't take any chances, so headed home, where I already had a new battery. It was about 3 PM when we set off again. We made up a bit of time by taking the M5 motorway as far as we could to get to Dartmoor. Devon is a beautiful county full of hidden gems such as old stone bridges over cascading streams. This is our first time using an action camera rather than our phones. We're using a GoPro Hero 10. Looking back, the phones didn't do a bad job, but an action camera is better. Whether the GoPro is the best I couldn't say because I haven't tried anything else, but GoPro is not perfect. At this stage, some of that is down to us. We needed to learn how to get the best out of it. That said, some of it is definitely a need for GoPro to sort out their product. As you can see, we are trying different angles with the new GoPro. We're also having to get used to filming ourselves. To begin with, it feels a bit uncomfortable, but we're getting there. The red telephone box, more properly a telephone kiosk, is a British design icon known throughout the world. Despite a huge reduction in their numbers in recent years, the traditional British red telephone kiosk can still be seen in many places throughout the UK and in current or former British colonies around the world. The vast majority are the K6 model, introduced in 1935. It very much resembles its predecessors, the K2 to K5, but is smaller and was more economical to produce. There is a K1, but these are extremely rare. There are believed to be just 14 in the UK, but most are in museums or privately owned. That said, there are several still on British streets, such as this one in Tintonhull, Somerset. While some still have a working telephone inside, many have been retained by the community and have been repurposed, often being used to house defibrillators or as very small libraries. Crossing this cattle grid is a sure sign we're about to enter the moor. The cattle grid is there to prevent the moorland livestock seeking out the better pastures of the lower lying farms. Along with the sign, it also warns us to look out for animals on the road.
This is the Dartmoor National Park, an area of 368 square miles or 954 square kilometres, roughly the same size as London. It is a beautiful place of wild open moorland, deep river valleys, peat bogs and woodlands, with varied wildlife and lots of history. Livestock, including sheep, cows and the famous Dartmoor ponies, roam free and are an essential part of the moor as they maintain the moor's ecological value. Although they roam free, all the livestock is owned by local farmers and commoners who have rights to graze the common land. These rights were established hundreds of years ago, but more recently the public has accessed rights to the commons on foot and horseback through the Dartmoor Commons Act of 1985, although much of the moor is very boggy and not suitable for walkers or riders. The barrenness, inaccessibility and unspoilt moorland has created the perfect setting for myths and legends and inspiration for authors such as the Sherlock Holmes story The Hound of the Baskervilles by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. The thick mists that suddenly appear on the moor, the bottomless mires and the craggy granite tors are just some of its features which have fired the imagination, resulting in much folklore and legends. One such legend is that of Coffin Stone. It is said that a truly evil man was being carried in his coffin to Widecombe churchyard, and during the steep climb his coffin was laid on the granite stone while the bearers rested. Legend has it that the Almighty was furious that this evil man was being buried in a sacred churchyard, and destroyed the coffin and split the stone the coffin was resting on by sending a massive thunderbolt down to earth. There are many such tales associated with Dartmoor. Getting back to truth and reality, perhaps the famous man-made physical feature on Dartmoor is the austere, foreboding and atmospheric Dartmoor Prison, set in the isolated town of Princetown, the highest settlement on the moor and one of the highest in the UK. The prison construction was completed in 1809 during the Napoleonic Wars and was built to accommodate French prisoners and was full by the end of that year. 200 years later, it continues to be used as a prison and has been home to some of the UK's most dangerous criminals, most noticeably Frank Mitchell, known as the Mad Axeman. In 1966, his escape was organised by the notorious gangsters, the Kray brothers, and resulted in one of the most infamous manhunts of the 20th century, which included 300 police officers and Royal Marines scouring the rough moorland and nearby villages around the prison. He was never found, the escape was well planned, and Mitchell was away by car to London within minutes. As I said, Dartmoor is full of beauty and interest, and I could say a lot more, but it isn't needed, as the landscape and its atmosphere speaks for itself.
If you're watching this, then probably you've seen some other of the YouTube travel vlogs, and a fair chance you've watched other motorcycle adventures. Like us, you must have marvelled at the wonders of Africa, the Americas and Asia, and envied the adventure and freedom by those travellers. Unfortunately, our circumstances don't allow us to adventure to such far-flung lands. I'm sure those places and feelings are truly wonderful, but that doesn't mean you can't experience a similar sense of wonder closer to home. We hope our videos will motivate you not only to discover Great Britain, but to appreciate wherever you live around the world. By the time we got to Fowey, we had run out of time to continue our coast adventure and had to find somewhere to stay. We popped into the Fowey Hall Hotel and struck a deal. We took a pleasant wander down the winding steep lanes to the harbour and found the Dwelling House restaurant, serving delicious home-cooked food. This is Fowey. I think that's how you pronounce it, Fowey. Fowey is what we were saying until we were corrected. And this is the place that we came to and couldn't go any further when we were doing our round the coastline trip, and we've come down here today to recommence our going around the coastline trip, and it's a little gem. I've heard of Fowey, but I've never really I've never been here before, and it's a nice evening even though it's March. It's quite warm. There's a heron out there, not sure if you can see that. Sat on a buoy. So we're back at our hotel now, and I'm starting to appreciate the history of the hotel that you'll see from the still photographs we've taken already, and the refurbishment that they've done and the ongoing refurbishment. It is a fascinating place. Very fascinating.